Looks like we have a couple folks, Allison, Alicia, Heather, and Mary. Thanks so much for joining us today. That's more than half of our service day grantees. Oh, and there's Dr. O'Connor. Wonderful. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know this was a little bit of an impromptu meeting. This is Tina Bateman with the EAC. I believe I've spoken with many of you. Just to give you a little bit of background and hear about what's going on. As you know, we intended to use the payment management system, PMS, for your drawdowns as they came up. What we found out is that the PMS process, getting the EAC set up in the new PMS system, is taking much longer than expected. So at this point in time, as you know, your grant started February 1st, and now we're pretty well into March. So we want to get your funding to you in the best way possible while still maintaining all of our risk requirements. What we've decided to do, given the size of these awards, is to advance the funds to you using an SF-270. It's a reimbursement form that we're going to walk you through, and you will receive your full award within the next several weeks. You'll be responsible for managing those funds. And as you incur expenses and charge them to the grant, you will still be submitting those to your program specialist as required based on your risk assessment. So that's the brunt of what's going on, is that at this time, we are not using PMS for the service day program. We're going to advance your full award to you, and we will walk you through the process of how that's going to work and also what the impacts are. So we'll cover a couple things today. We've tried to make this as smooth a process for you all as possible, and we appreciate your patience getting to this point. I don't expect to keep you for an hour. And again, this is going to be posted on our website. Feel free to take screenshots, jot some notes down as you need to. Here's our timeline. This is fairly similar, should look pretty familiar. I believe all but maybe one of our NOAs have gone out. So if we're still waiting for your documentation, if you're unsure, go ahead and reach out. We can sure confirm with you if we're waiting on something. You should receive contact from your grant specialist this week or next week about any requirements that you have regarding risk assessment, or meeting with you based on that monthly meeting requirement. After this meeting, I'm going to send out the SF-270 to you, and we're asking to have those completed and back to us within 10 business days. So I'm just going to pause here for dramatic effect. We're going to send your SF-270s to you today. We would like those back in 10 business days, sent to havcp@eac.gov, and that will trigger your funding being dispersed to you. Beyond that, your requirements for the next year are going to be those risk requirements that we will touch on, and then your final reporting, which will happen at the end of the grant period. Okay, this is the SF-270. I've mentioned it a couple times. Just so you know, the SF-270, it's a standard form. We are required to either create our own form anytime we need to collect information from anyone in the public or a grantee or an applicant, or we can ask to use a standard form. So if it feels like this isn't specific or it's more confusing than it needs to be, it is. And that's why it's the part of the Paperwork Reduction Act. It is an attempt to reduce the burden on all of you, on the public, and to create a little bit of consistency across agencies. So what we've done for our service day grantees is we are going to pre-populate this form for you. We will send it out, and we're going to ask you to confirm a couple of things. There's a few areas where you need to input information, and then sign it and send it back to us. Because you only are doing this once, we don't feel that it would be beneficial for you to have to learn how to complete this whole form and track it and submit for reimbursement. So we're just going to fill it out for you with all of the information that you've already submitted with your total award amount, and then you can review it, sign it, and send it back to us. Before we talk more about this, I'm going to pull up the form so you can see what it's going to look like. Again, after this meeting, I'm going to send these out to you, and all of this information will be filled out. You are going to have to choose which type of accounting system you use, cash or accrual. I want you to confirm your EIN number. And these 4 and 7, this is your award number. That's on your NOA and your grant agreement. This recipient organization, this is going to be the grantee. Make sure all of these names and addresses are correct. 10, this is the payee. If you have a fiscal agent, this is the person, the organization that is receiving the money. If it's different from what was listed in number 9. This is information that pertains to requesting reimbursement. As you can tell by that big red X, it does not apply to you. This is where we're going to put in that we are advancing your full award amount to you. Confirm those amounts for me. And then number 13 is a certification. So again, this is your certifying official. That's the person who signed your grant agreement. I want you to print and wet sign and then scan and send it back to us, or use a certified signature. So certified meaning that when you input it in Adobe, you have to put in a PIN or a password, and then it will stamp it with a time and date. Not just using the signature option and then it shows up in a fancy script format. Once that is done, all you have to do is email this form back to us at the HAVCAP email address. We will send it on to our Treasury Department and the Bureau of Fiscal Services, and your funds will be advanced to you. Second most important piece of information that I want you to take away from today. The money is going to go to the bank account that you have identified at sam.gov. We do not have any banking information on that form. We do not have any access to your banking information. Neither does our Treasury Department. So whatever you have at sam.gov, that is where your money is going to go. So before you submit your form to us, I want you to go to sam.gov. If you have a fiscal agent, have them go and confirm that the correct banking information is in there. And let whoever needs to know be aware that this payment is going to be coming. Any questions or concerns about that? So again, I will send you your SF-270s pre-populated. There's a few things you need to confirm and fill out on there, and then you'll return it to us. We've been asking for those back in 10 business days. I know that a lot of, especially institutions of higher education, I know you have a lot of procedures you have to go through. If 10 business days is not enough time, just let us know. Keep us updated on what your process is. Okay. So this is another change that you're going to see because of what's happened moving to an advanced system. You'll remember that originally we were going to have you submit your expenses, your documentation, along with your request for reimbursement, or at the same time that you do that. So because we're not doing it that way, you're going to have all of your money in advance. We're going to ask you to submit your expenditures on a quarterly basis. rather than have you pick which ones to send and when. So you can see that first period is February 1st to April 30th. And then 15 days later, if you are a medium or high risk grantee, we want you to collect all of the expenses that you charge to the grant, either match or federal, for that period and send them to your grant specialist. You can see for medium risk, we're asking you to do that for that first quarter, that first period. High risk, we want you to do it for every quarter. And then if your risk level changes, then we will let you know that if that affects how often and what you need to send in. Okay. So things that you're taking away, one is that we're advancing funds to. Two, you need to confirm your banking information at sam.gov. Three, the third most important thing is that we are advancing your funds to you. And that means that you're responsible for managing that award, what gets charged to that, and how much money you have in there. At the end of the grant period, if you have money left over, you'll need to return that to the EAC. So your internal processes of your organization or your fiscal agent should be such that you are tracking all of this information. If they're not, this is the time to set it up. So you want to know exactly what expenses, what percentage of expenses, if you're allocating, are being charged to a grant, how those funds are being kept separate from other funding sources that you have, how much money you have spent at any given time, and how much money you have remaining in your award, and how much match responsibility you have left. We'll check in with folks probably around the end of our fiscal year, maybe after the election period, when it's a little bit quieter for you all, when we have a few months left in the grant period, so we can say, hey, how are we doing? How much money do you have left in your award? How is it looking for the remainder of this grant period? Quick reminder about our quarterly program call on May 15th at 5 p.m. and that'll be with our poll worker program as well. We are hoping to also have a training with our Office of Inspector General in the next couple months about internal controls and the processes and procedures you should have in place to be managing federal funds. It's an awesome opportunity to hear from the people who conduct the audits. So we will send you more information about that. If there's anything specific you'd like to hear, go ahead and send us an email and we can be sure it's covered. So that's it for the information that I really want you all to take away. But if you have questions, please go ahead and shout them out or put them in the chat. If you'd like to go back to that SF-270, we can certainly do that as well. Glad to hear it, Mary. I did want to put a quick plug in for our EAC agency-wide staff meeting that we do bi-weekly. Sammy and I are presenting on the College Poll Worker Program in 2 weeks, and I would love to share information about you all and the work that you're doing. It is so much more interesting and gratifying to folks to hear about what the funds are doing on the ground. So if you had an event in January, or if you have an upcoming one, and you have photos or testimonials or videos, please send them my way. And I'll reach out to everybody via email too. Sammy, anything that I missed?
No, that was great. Thanks so much, Tina, and thanks so much, everyone, for joining. And please do let us know if you have any questions about this process with the SF-270 or anything else when you're getting your programs up and running.
Thanks, Sammy. Yeah, we felt that we want this to be the best for all of you. So we thought that it'd be less cumbersome to receive these awards based on their amount all in advance. If your organization is uncomfortable with that, let us know. We can work with you. Awesome. Well, it's wonderful to see you all. I hope that we can see you again in May. We'll be in communication with you via email, and I just hope you have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Take care.